All right, welcome back for another live episode of the Relationship Series. My name is Gina Spataro, and this is my brother Sam Spataro, always talking about the matters of the heart and mind. Before we begin, to support this channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And don't forget to share this with somebody who might be, experiencing the same thing. Well, tonight's topic is pretty interesting, but before we begin, how's your week been, Sam?
It's been a great week. Actually, tonight I had my coaching call with my coach.
Oh, how was that?
It was actually very interesting because, usually the topic is about setting specific goals around some things you want to, accelerate in your life.
Yeah.
But as you know, there's a lot of uncertainties and questions about some certain things that might have impacts on your life that maybe we can't control. So trying to navigate that while still being mindful, present, and focusing on what you still have power over, right, and finding a way to bring a lot of meaning to obviously your life and
right,
whatever else that you find purposeful. So it was very interesting with a few little twists, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And starting a new project this week, which is pretty exciting. Going to be a good one. And just things are great with home life and the kids and the wife, and everybody's healthy, which, I mean, what more could you ask for? We're all, still employed. Our companies are up and running. So very grateful. How about yourself?
Yeah, great week. It's funny, even though the weather's getting colder, I'm still enjoying like going outside and getting some fresh air. Like I have to every day. So it forces me. So I'm actually enjoying it. I'm, like you, because you enjoy the cold. I don't know if you enjoy it, you just embrace it.
I never said I enjoy the cold.
You embrace
I turn the cold into my bitch is what I do.
Yeah. So I'm trying to kind of have that mindset because I know it's inevitable.
Yep.
So, and I just think when people are like, oh, it's cold today, I'm like, it's not too bad because I know that it's going to get colder. Right. So I just know like this is still not bad. But anyway, other than that, great week. Can't really say anything negative about this week, and almost on holidays. So that's a bonus. So tonight's topic was sparked by a couple of conversations that we've had over the past week and a bit. And it's couples who sleep in different bedrooms and the normalcy of it. Like it's quite common, actually. I mean, most people watching this are probably like, oh yeah, I know somebody who does that, and as people age and get older in relationships, this tends to be something that they do, and why, right? So I know you wanted to kick it off, Sam, with some awesome information. I do have some banners ready for you. So, you did mention in your sheet that, is it bad to sleep apart? So I'm going to let you get into that a little bit. Because
no, definitely. It's kind of funny because we kind of got sparked with this idea through a couple conversations we had with some people. But I mean, I think back to when, like our mom's parents lived together, they had separate beds.
Yeah.
And it's actually very common and very high profile people.
Right.
Like Queen, I believe Elizabeth and her husband, they don't sleep together. And anyway, it's very interesting. This is more of a fun for us sort of topic, and maybe not fun for you if you haven't quite figured it out, if you're dealing with this or are starting to feel the effects of, should we be in the same room or not for whatever reason. Usually it has to do with the snoring thing, which is a big thing. But anyway, what I wanted to do was I read a couple articles, and one was based around a TED Talk that a scientist did, and it's how to be a better human. And one of the things that the person started off with, is it bad if my partner and I sleep apart?
Mm-hmm.
And so what she did was she shared some stats and some points from a scientific sort of approach, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, I know for myself and my relationship, apparently I snore. That's what my kids tell me. That's what my wife tells me. And I used to make fun of our parents, growing up. And I mean, our grandfather, my God, it was like an earthquake when he would sleep, and half the time you thought he was dead because there'd be such big gaps between breaths and snoring, right? And so here I am now. I'm a snorer. And However, it isn't a problem in my relationship for a lot of the reasons that I'm going to explain in here. So there are some positive and some negative aspects to it. But one of the key thing is, and I just wanted to point this out, if you ask those disrupted sleepers, do you prefer to sleep with your partner or do you prefer to sleep alone? And that is, around the basis of people who are loud snorers, who keep them up at night, who disrupt their sleep. And they actually say that they still prefer to sleep with their partner. And, if we can tie in the human needs to this, I mean, what human needs do you think that fulfills where your sleep's being interrupted? You can wake up tired, groggy, fatigued. I mean, why would you want to tolerate that where you could just be in separate rooms, put him on the couch, put her on the couch, separate beds, whatever it is, you might a muzzle, whatever it is. Why do you think people on the greater scale still tend to decide to sleep together?
Love and connection, for sure. Certainty, significance, that kind of stuff for sure. I mean, there's a bond that's created when people do sleep together. Yes. Of course, like if you had the bed to yourself, you would, of course, have a much better sleep. Everybody sleeps differently. People toss and turn. People talk in their sleep. People, snore, like you said. People get up to go to the bathroom. Some people are light noise sensitive versus heavy sleepers. So there's a variety of reasons, but there's still a reason why people crave having someone beside them. There is that love and connection, that bond, right? That certainty that someone's there to protect and, care for you if something ever happens, etc. But that's my guess. That's my guess. Nice new glasses, Sam.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah, I'm 44 now, and I really found out I needed these. I actually got these a little while ago. I don't think I really needed them at the time, but this year I was struggling to, like when I would go fishing, like slip the line in between the slot of the hook. Like I would struggle to see it, and I thought it was just, maybe it was just having an off day, and then. My kids and I started getting into Pokemon together, and they're at the bottom of the cards. There's like this little number that you need to read, and I couldn't make it out for the life of me. So I'm like, give me those. I go to my wife and go, give me those glasses. I want to try them out. And sure enough, boom, the numbers and everything. I'm like, okay, I've been 44 years with good eyes. Now's the time to pull them out.
That's great.
But anyways, getting back to our topic, yeah, I mean. I would just speak for myself. Like if my wife was a loud snorer, she's a snorer, but doesn't really disrupt my sleep.
Right.
But if it did get to that point, I still think I would prefer to be with her because, it's a lot nicer, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that could care less. People like we're cuddly, we're very cuddly, snuggly type people, whether it's me with her or her with me. And, it really makes you feel connected and grounded and, just that really free sense of, love at that nighttime where it's very comforting, right? But there are those that don't really care for it,
right.
Which brings in a different angle. But it's quite funny, actually. One thing that I also wanted to state was couples who are on opposite sleep routines. And this is usually people that, work at. All right, Gina, where did you go? Anyways, she'll come back to me. It seems like every video she has something fun to do with her camera and her computer. For those of you who are watching, obviously she's not here yet. Couples who are on opposite sleep routines usually have a lot more conflict. There you are. What are you playing, charades?
I accidentally clicked the wrong button. I meant to click on this. Opposite sleep routines.
I'm going to give you an F for... You're going to have to bring it home and get your mom and dad to sign the report card.
Oh, God.
But anyway, I was just stating that couples who are on opposite sleep routines, and this usually applies to people who probably work in factories. Like who else would you think?
Shift work people.
Shift work. Yeah, people who are on shift work, wherever it might be, factory,
yeah.
If you're in the oil fields, wherever it might be. And usually people that are in those type of relationships with those sleep patterns have a lot more conflict and a ton less sexual activity. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. I know people that if their husband's working late or whatever, they sleep in, a separate room or on the couch just to ensure that, because a lot of the times the other person has to get up and work early in the morning, right? So they just think it's courtesy and respect, right? And I get it. I 100% get it. But yeah, you are, and once again, like if you're not sleeping with your significant other during the night because of work, right? If you are constantly absent, you are losing that intimacy, right? And it might not be by choice, it just might be by circumstance, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, opposite sleep routines for sure. And sometimes even if, there's a new baby or,
Yeah, that's a very good one.
yeah, or if,
Oh, are you gonna stay up and watch the baby tonight? Right? And you know what? It's very common today. It probably wasn't common back in the olden days where, let's just, usually the women are home with the children
yeah.
and the men are working. And I hear from a lot of men where, their women ask them to stay up at night and take turns to relieve them when they have to go to work in the morning. And, a lot of them don't say anything. They could probably just take it, but I know a lot of them do get affected by that. Me and my relationship, my wife wasn't like that at all. I mean, if she had asked me, I probably would do it without hesitation or without any anger or regret. But there is a lot of people who get a lot of hostility over that and do get burdened by it.
Yeah, 100%, right? And especially if the woman's breastfeeding, it's like clockwork every 2 hours for the first little while. And those sleep routines are dramatically changed when you have a child enter, the relationship. And I think that's like a pre-discussion that a lot of people should have. Like, if this happens, what do we want to maintain? What's our focus? Do we have the baby in the room? Don't we? Do we continue to sleep in the same bed? Would you like your space and your time? Maybe Friday, Saturday, Sundays, we do sleep in the same bed. Maybe Mondays through Thursday, we don't, if I don't go to work. So there's so many arrangements due to sleep routines. So, and even for those who go to bed late, those who go to bed earlier, like night hawks, etc., that will interrupt somebody's sleep. Someone who sleeps with the TV on, like there's so many circumstances, but it will all impact, the relationship at some point. I mean, and the thing is too, so one of the things to maintain a healthy body, mind, and spirit, of course, food, exercise, etc., but sleep is so important, having a healthy sleep pattern. So going to bed at specific times, before a certain time, getting up, routinely, etc., are just healthy habits. And if you and your spouse can get into like a very synchronized or almost synchronized pattern, that will help too. There are some ways you can alleviate the stress of not sleeping in the same bed. You just have to understand what it is that's causing the separation of it, really and truly. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, so before we move on with this, I want to leave people with a couple tidbits of things that they might be able to do. But there's actually a term called sleep divorce, which is a term couples use when they choose to sleep apart. Now, let's put a positive spin on that. If you are out there and you're experiencing this right now, I mean, what can you do? Through the research that I have found, there's really nothing wrong or right if you decide to sleep with one another or not. Because at the end of the day, if sleeping with one another is affecting your relationship in a multitude of negative ways, where it's causing more conflict and less sexual activity, sit down and have a conversation about, different arrangements. Maybe rather than 7 days of the week, where you're sleeping in the same room and having struggles, maybe during the week when it's work time, you don't. And on the weekends you do, but you're refreshed, you're charged, and maybe, because you haven't been in the room with one another, it creates a lot more excitement and polarity in that sense, right? So that's one thing I would recommend is have a conversation with the person. Don't feel guilty, don't feel shameful, don't feel like, you're doing something wrong, because really wealthy people actually still do this. And there was something, I can't remember the term, but if you go back in time and history, there was a part where people never really ever did sleep with one another. There was always that separation. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't associate any negativity towards it. Just sit down and have a good conversation and focus on what good things can come from these small changes. What would you like to add to that?
I think you're right. I mean, there are some circumstances where it's hard, right? Where you do want to respect the other person's needs as well, right? Because obviously we all have needs, the 6 human needs, and certainty sometimes like, okay, I know I need to survive and have a good night's sleep, and this is hindering it right now. But you're right. Being put on polar sides will separate you, a little bit. But being balanced on coming up with a solution where it works for both of you is super important. Don't be afraid to talk about it, honestly. Like, just be like, okay, I understand this matters to you, but I still want to connect with you in this way. And I find a lot of the times women are expressing their need to have different rooms than men. To be quite honest, if it was up to the man, they would still be in the room a lot of the time. So I think the man needs to really express, like, this is my bed too. I love being connected with you. Let's make this work for the both of us. And that's my personal opinion, that I hear it from women more than men, to be quite honest. So that's my viewpoint on that.
Okay. And just to add to a couple things there before we move on, if you sleep with someone who snores, you can literally not blame them, but you can hold them accountable for up to 50% of your sleep disruptions. And another thing is, like we discussed earlier, problems can also emerge due to differences in sleep, wake patterns. And like I said, sleep divorce is a term when couples choose to sleep apart, which can then be a side effect if you ain't sleeping and you're getting jabbed and poked in the middle of the night because you're snoring up a storm. This can cause problems if you don't communicate with your words and you communicate with your elbows only.
Yeah. Another thing you can do to kind of compare is get a sleep monitoring device, right? So like a heart rate monitor, and it'll track your sleep pattern. So if it's better, when you are apart or if you're together, etc., and track that, see what happens, right? Because you don't know, for all you know, you could be waking yourself up sometimes too, right? And it'll show that, peak and low and etc. But yeah, for sure.
And I think at a time right now where there's a lot of additional stress and anxiety, uncertainty in our lives, sleep is one thing that will help you to have a better day.
Agreed.
So sit down and have that conversation about this, because there'll be a lot of positive side effects of making these small changes. One thing I did want to touch on were a few positive aspects of people that decide not to sleep with one another. If that be the case, if that's what you decide to do. And like Gina put here, 60% are still sleeping together despite the noise and the disarray and the anxiety and the stress and the fatigue that it caused. People are still choosing to do that. Why? Because the human needs always prevail.
Yes.
Right? Over the pain or discomfort that you're going through. So from a human need perspective, feeling that connection and love outweighs any of the pain or fatigue that can be caused from the lack of sleep or the disruptive sleep. And it's quite funny, actually, listening to that TED Talk in the article on how to be a better human. It's actually a series on YouTube. You should check it out. Wealthy couples still opt for separate bedrooms. It's very common still to this day.
Yeah, I bet.
It's very common. So, like I said, if the wealthy are doing it, then maybe, if you're struggling and it's starting to cause a lot of problems, really take some time to think about it. There's really nothing wrong with making these changes if the benefits are outgonna outweigh the changes. And like we always said, this reunifies the need for connection and significance. And couples need to make sleep a priority so it creates positive experiences in the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And it's the connotation around it too, right? It's like, why is it happening? Why? Is it because there's always a disagreement, you never get along? Is it because really truly the noises? You got to really pinpoint, why are you in separate quarters So yeah, and get clear with it. Be honest with yourselves. Like, do you despise sleeping beside the person that you chose, or is this person really disrupting your sleep?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, let's talk about it from a big perspective. There's probably a small percentage of people that enjoy sleeping by themselves.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, a very small percentage. There are those that maybe enjoy sleeping with someone in the bed that don't enjoy being smothered, but do like to be in a bed with somebody. But I think for the most part, the majority of people enjoy, their spouse or their partner in the same bed as them, right?
Great. I agree 100%. And you know what? Keep on trucking, people.
Keep on trucking.
Enjoy that productive sleep and increase productive sleep. That's huge. Look at the surroundings in your room. Are you not sleeping maybe because you have a tablet or, phones going off in your room too? Do you have light sources coming in your room? Like, there's so many factors, right? Do you have a TV? Do you have a light coming from your TV? Is there blue light, red lights entering your room? Lots of things to consider before blaming the person beside you, right? Lots of things. So on that note, is there anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, I think we've covered a pretty broad basis on there. I mean, if this is something that is pretty serious in your life and you might need some help in dealing with it, in the description below, Gina and I will link our coaching platform. And I believe we also donate a percentage of our fee to a charity of our choice. So it's always good to give back in a way. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where if you don't nip it in the butt now, it becomes a really big problem one day. Even though it seems like such a small problem, it ends up affecting other areas of your relationship. And since relationships are matters of the heart and mind, it's very important to always be connected to both sides of your life.
Yeah. And on that note, we will see you all next time. Ciao for now.